everybody hear me? Okay, good. To say that January of this year was turbulent would be an understatement. Unfortunate, yes. Catastrophic, sure. More or less shitty, absolutely. On January 1st, my best friend's mother passed away. This was after watching her lifeless body stay stably alive while hooked up to an absurd amount of machines in the ICU for 2 weeks. It wasn't even so much the way that she died as it was watching her die. Joking with my best friend about how we were going to give her mother hell for scaring us like that when she wakes up again, but she didn't. And on January 7th, we laid her to rest in body and mind. Strike one. I'm currently making my way through school system to finally finish my bachelor's degree. It hasn't been fun, it hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. Last year, I doubled up on my work and doubled down on my stress. I started sleeping less, working more, and feeling absolutely insane all the time. December, I had burned myself out rather quickly. Even though finals were fastly approaching, I didn't give a fuck. I had worked myself past the limit of giving a fuck. I knew that there was one class that I should have dropped that I absolutely didn't. Alas, I failed this class, was knocked out of the percentage bracket to receive financial aid for spring semester. Strike two. To top this all off, I had been struggling to find a steady and reliable job. During the fall, I took up an internship and started working part-time, doing small things here and there, and I eventually started working at a Chinese restaurant delivering food. Now, this gig wasn't bad. I made good hourly pay plus tips. If I had worked longer shifts, I would get free lunch or dinner. The owners were sweet as heck and generally liked me. Unfortunately, they overhired when I joined the team, and I was left with less shifts than I had originally expected. Plus, I'm a sucker for holidays, and Christmas had royally fucked me again, leaving me broke as a joke during the entirety of January. Strike three. As my bills were nearly due and I was running out of clues, I figured, that's it, right? 3 strikes and the shit gets better, right? Right? Then strike 4 came around and knocked on my door. I was getting ready to leave for my internship, and I lost track of time making a shirt about the New York pizza rat. Serious business, guys. Serious. While fitting to be rushing out the door, I messaged my boss and informed her I was going to be late. No harm, no foul. Should have taken this as a sure sign to slow my roll and not rush to get there. But of course, I didn't. I'm neurotic. Instead, I became frazzled. Every single time there's a stop in traffic or when someone cut me off, I kept reminding myself to keep my cool, that I would get there eventually, but I didn't. I kept getting angrier and angrier at the beloved Houston traffic that I know so fucking well. What happened next should have been expected, but I don't really know what happened. I remember that the traffic had turned to stop and go. I was stopping and going, until I missed the cue in the stop and go sequence that it was created. The car in front of me stopped in enough time not to hit the car in front of them, however I did not, and I slammed my car into the SUV in front of me. I remember hearing the skidding, feeling my body jolting forward, inhaling the smoke and fumes that extracted from the airbag. The air inside my car was filling with pasty, white particles of dust, and it began to fog my eyesight. I didn't realize it at the time, but my glass had flown forward in my field of vision. My keys had burned into pieces, leaving bits all over my car. I tried to make sense of what happened, but for a moment I thought I was dead. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't feel anything. I kept trying to ask the woman standing outside my car to help me, but I don't think that she could hear me. I also don't think I was actually speaking, maybe muttering. I didn't know if I was okay, but I did know I needed to get out of my car. I tried to push the car door open. That seemed to be bolted in. I pushed as much as I could, but it felt so heavy beneath my tiny hands. I pushed until I finally got out. I'm sure I looked mad and wild, covered in sodium iodine sediments that was coming out of my airbag. Now, the other car looked relatively fine. The light in the bumper was broken, and there was some minor paint scratches on the bumper. But other than that, everything was okay. My car was a fucking wreck. My entire frame was cracked, and it looked as if Titan had dropped the world on my hood. I stepped back and assessed the damage, and I couldn't believe my eyes. What had I done? I began crying and stammering. As I got my information together, tow truck drivers began filling in the gaps, passing out cards, and asking me confidential questions. An officer arrived, asked me if I was all right. It was then that I noticed that the woman I had been in the accident with, I had hit, she interjects that she's pregnant. My stomach dropped. What if I made her lose the baby? What if I had ruined this woman's life? I felt sick. I would have puked if I had anything in my stomach. I tried to keep my shit together, but my mind wasn't letting me. I had to let go of every logical thought I could possess and fumbled about like a kid. The damage was minimal, and the woman was visibly fine, but she was nervous and shooken up, and who knows, maybe the stress could get to her. I didn't know. I didn't know anything. I was some stupid girl that wasn't paying attention. The officer who had pulled me over could see my mind was whirling at this point. She gave me a hug and told me not to worry. She joked that she had done this a few weeks ago, and that it wasn't a big deal. She assured me that everything was going to be fine and that I wouldn't be getting a ticket. I didn't believe any word she said, but I shook my head, okay, and I left with the tow truck driver. That Wednesday was the longest day of my life, and yet the most comforting. I had to call my internship, my job, my family, to tell them what had happened. Damn near more tears, I explained that this was all my fault and that I wasn't sure what I was going to do. They told me not to worry, things would be okay, to keep them updated. My sister left work and drove me to the doctor's office to make sure that I didn't have a concussion. Update, didn't have a concussion, but I did have a nasty cut across my chest from my seatbelt where the airbag had exploded, and it dug my seatbelt deep into my chest. I didn't notice the bruising until the doctor pointed it out. My doctor just suggested that I get an EKG test to assess the activity of my heart. I said, okay. The last thing I gave a shit about at this point was my heart. I was thinking about the mother and her baby. What if I harmed the baby? My doctor ran the EKG test, and he noticed 2 blips that looked troublesome. He asked me to stay in the office. Fortunately, that day, he had a cardiologist that he wanted me to have a consultation with. As I previously stated, I'm broke as shit. I can't afford to see a cardiologist and take more tests even if I wanted to. However, my doctor insisted that I did, and he waived the fee for the consultation. I said, okay, and waited for the cardiologist. After waiting for an hour, I felt sicker and sicker. I asked if it was okay that I leave. I wanted to crumble up in a ball and just sleep. My head was killing me, my body was sore, my nerves were shot. I didn't give a fuck anymore. My doctor told me, please wait, it could be serious. So I waited and I saw the cardiologist an hour later. When the cardiologist walked in, he asked me the usual questions, my family history, my previous smoking and drinking habits. During the questioning, I broke down in tears again. I still couldn't understand the implications of what I had just done. The cardiologist took pity on me and tried to console me. He told me that it would be an ultrasound on my heart and that it would be pro bono. They were worried my heart was bruised, something I had never even heard of. The appointment was set for early tomorrow morning, and I went home and I wept. After a few hours on my appointment, I received a call from my insurance. The other driver was fine. Her baby was fine. My car was more than likely totaled, and I would be hearing more in a few days. I went to the cardiologist appointment the next day and received even better news. My heart was fine. There was no visible bruise. I received even better news the following day. My financial aid appeal went through, and I would be completing my sophomore year this year. My sister was out of town for her birthday the following week and lent me her car so I could go to and from school. My job and my internship completely understood that I would be out and merely asked that I keep them updated, to which I happily agreed. Now the car, the huge plus, that my lease on the car was covered GAP insurance. My car was declared total. However, I was able to find the exact replica of my car that following week. All in all, I was able to get a much cheaper car than I currently owned. In a way, a huge fucking plus. My insurance would now be fucked, but that's life. Some would say this is dumb luck. Others would say this is a miracle. I call it faith. Thank you.